What's at stake if Africa delays SaaS adoption? Clearly, you see that the 50 million plus SMEs would remain informal and undigitized. The risk is that these SMEs will stay in street business mode without SaaS tools provided for them. Such tools like payroll, accounting, and inventory management will help them scale. The consequence is that this poor economic participation, primary economic fragmentation, and reduced tax revenue capture even for the government. SaaS provides the access point for African businesses to push them to the global economy. So the question has often been asked, what's the role of government policy and infrastructure in fostering SaaS growth in Africa? Clearly, the government helps with digital public infrastructure, often known as DPI, such as things like national identification systems, digital addresses, open banking APIs, e-signature. The importance of this is that clearly you can use SaaS to conduct KYC for user verification, facilitate contract via digital means, conduct agile onboarding with payment processing, and this actually helps the government, especially encouraging private SaaS enterprises to innovate for public use. Data protection and cybersecurity policies are also very important, and with high sensitive data being shared across the continent, it's important that these are actually strengthened. Where you have bad policies, they create vague and punitive legislative measures which do not help business. Digital tax and VAT policies are also very important. SaaS companies carrying, ambiguous, retrogressive, and burdensome taxes is a common occurrence in Africa, and this does not help. What helps is to draft legislation which is very simple and also encourage businesses. Gradual tax compliance framework based on the revenue band threshold, e.g. tax holidays for early stage startups, they often encourage businesses to do more. What is also not good is trying to compare these early stage businesses to well-established businesses, especially in terms of tax assessments. The other things we also see is government purchasing of local SaaS businesses and software. This helps build credibility in the system and also spurs businesses and also creates growth of potentials. Imagine the government using all the funds it would have otherwise used to pay the global players. If those funds are paid to local players, it helps ensure growth. And what we've also seen these days, where you have open and fair bidding processes for contracts, it also encourages startups to, bid and ultimately gain some of these contracts. Investment in infrastructure, specifically power and internet. Why this matters a lot is that while we've seen decline of SaaS adoption in some region, this can be attributed majorly to areas where you don't have regular power supply or access to the internet. The scaling of SaaS offering become very easier, in small towns and rural areas where you have stable internet and power infrastructure. Also, rural energy hosting for public, for cloud infrastructure are also easier where you have stable power supply. Another key question that has been asked is what's at stake if Africa doesn't move fast on SaaS adoption, and what do we risk missing out on? Clearly, should Africa take longer to adopt, without things like Salesforce or Microsoft systems, it will definitely fall behind, on the historic chance to digitally transform its economies, formalize millions of businesses, and close the wide productivity gaps in numerous key industries. It's more than software use. This affects frontier economies, inclusion, and the chance to work around the traditional development hurdles. What's at stake if Africa delays SaaS adoption? Clearly, you see that the 50 million plus SMEs would remain informal and undigitized. The risk is that these SMEs will stay in street business mode without SaaS tools provided for them. Such tools like payroll, accounting, and inventory management will help them scale. The consequence is that this poor economic participation, primary economic fragmentation, and reduced tax revenue capture even for the government. The bottom line is that SaaS provides the access point for African businesses to push them to the global economy. There will definitely be slow growth in key sectors such as agriculture, retail, healthcare, and education. And the risk here is that compared to global averages, productivity in Africa's key sectors will continue to lag behind. It will stagnate without digitizing the operations and supply chain. And like three consequences, I will also see that there will be increased reliance on inefficient and outdated systems, which reduce productivity, therefore shrinking outputs. The bottom line is that the absence of SaaS users will result in these sectors not achieving transformation and not fostering inclusive economic growth, which we want to achieve. There will also be potential loss of data infrastructure, which are essential to fintech, AI, and credit systems. And this will impact credit scoring, insurance underwriting, and being able to use AI tools across the continent. The consequence, therefore, is that fintech development will be limited to just maybe payment systems and consumer lending, bypassing, the financing for the SMEs required, as well as B2B growth. The reality is that SaaS is not a simple software. It is the data, which will fuel the entire revolution that are required. The growing gap in workforce skills and job opportunities that we've witnessed over time will also be managed, with full adoption of SaaS systems. Another key thing is to note that, the increasing disparity between the unemployed youth and the worldwide need for digitally skilled teams will continue to increase if we don't adopt SaaS systems. SaaS is the operating system for the work of today. Without it, there's no participation in digital marketplace. Slower public sector digitization and service delivery will also continue without the adoption of SaaS. Government functions like HR, school administration, local government, and budgeting will continue, to experience bottleneck if we don't adopt SaaS system. The consequence of this will also be that we'll have reduced trust in government. The wasteful spending will continue. The weak delivery of social services will also continue and not improve. The adoption of SaaS technology by government, which will definitely enhance the state's capacity and accountability, is therefore critical. So, how does Africa stand to gain from accelerated SaaS adoption? You can think of this in many ways. It will give structure and support to millions of micro and small-scale businesses across the continent. It will unlock and analyze data which will influence credit, health, and agri-finance. It will also enhance productivity, accountability across many industries. It will generate employment, in both products, sales, support, and other digital services. It will establish a local software industry which has potential to scale and for global export. It will improve the perceived digital independence on the West and combat reliance, on foreign products. Clearly, the opportunity, for Africa to adopt SaaS on a large scale is now, and that opportunity must be seized. Thank you.